Every major transformation, every significant breakthrough, and every shift in human history began with a single moment, a decision. It didn't require a grand announcement or a massive audience. It didn't need approval from the world. It only needed one person in one moment to decide. Decisions are powerful. They shape our lives, dictate our future, and influence those around us. But most people underestimate the power of a single decision. They assume change comes from circumstances, luck, or external forces. The truth is, change is always an inside job. It starts in the mind, with a thought, a realization, a commitment. Think about it. Every great leader, every world-changing innovator, every revolutionary thinker, at some point they made a decision to break free from mediocrity, a decision to challenge the norm, a decision to take action when everyone else was waiting. Take the example of someone who decides to transform their health. It doesn't happen because of a fancy diet plan, a personal trainer, or the latest fitness trend. It happens because one day they look in the mirror and say, enough is enough. That's the moment everything changes. The external factors, the gym, the diet, the support, those all come later, but it begins with a single, unwavering decision. The same applies to business. No great company was ever built without someone first making the decision to start. Most people hesitate. They wait for the perfect timing, the ideal circumstances, the right amount of money. But the ones who change the world, they decide first. They figure the rest out along the way. Now, let's go deeper. What actually happens when a person makes a decision? One, the mind shifts before the world does. When you truly decide something, when you commit with conviction, your mind starts working in a different way. It stops looking for excuses and starts looking for solutions. It stops focusing on obstacles and starts seeing opportunities. This is why the most successful people in the world aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're simply the ones who decided to be relentless. Think about someone who's stuck in a job they hate. Every day they complain. Every day they wish things were different. But until they decide that they're done settling, nothing changes. The moment they make that decision, though, suddenly their mind shifts. They start networking, updating their resume, learning new skills. Opportunities that seemed invisible before start showing up. Why? Because the decision was made. Two, the decision is the hardest part. Most people think taking action is the hardest part of change. It's not. The hardest part is deciding. Why? Because once you decide, once you truly decide, action becomes automatic. There's no more debating, no more going back and forth. A real decision eliminates hesitation. It cuts off other options. That's the meaning of the word decision. It comes from the Latin word decidere, which means to cut off. When someone decides to start a business, they don't need motivation to wake up early and work late. The decision fuels them. When someone decides to leave a toxic relationship, they don't need someone to tell them what to do next. The clarity of their decision guides them. But here's what most people do. They pretend to decide. They say, I should start working out. I really need to leave this job. I want to be successful. But they don't mean it. They're interested, not committed. And there's a big difference. Commitment means there's no turning back. It means you burn the boats. It means you stop entertaining plan B, because plan A is the only option. Three, decision creates momentum. Something incredible happens when you make a real decision. You gain momentum. The first step is always the hardest, but once you take it, the next one is easier, then the next, then the next. Imagine someone deciding to improve their finances. Maybe they've been drowning in debt for years, feeling stuck, overwhelmed, hopeless. But one day they say, no more. That's the moment things change. They start reading books on money management. They create a budget. They cut unnecessary expenses. And suddenly, that mountain of debt doesn't seem impossible. The same goes for personal growth. The decision to start reading, learning, and developing yourself, just that one decision can change the entire course of a life. It doesn't matter where you start. What matters is that you start. Think about a rocket. It takes the most energy to break through Earth's atmosphere, but once it's in space, it barely needs fuel to keep moving. That's momentum. And momentum starts with one push, one step, one decision. 4. The world responds to certainty. There's something magnetic about someone who has truly made up their mind. You've seen it before. A person who walks with confidence, speaks with clarity, acts with purpose. People follow them. Opportunities come to them. Doors open for them. Why? Because certainty is rare. Most people live in hesitation. They're waiting for a sign, for permission, for perfect conditions. But the ones who make things happen, they create their own certainty. And the world responds. Think about sales. If a salesperson is unsure, hesitant, or doubtful, the customer feels it. But when they believe, when they're certain, people trust them. They buy. The same is true for leadership. People don't follow uncertainty. They follow conviction. So if you want to change your life, if you want to change the world, you have to develop that kind of certainty, and certainty comes from decision. This expansion covers the deep impact of decision-making and how it shapes everything that follows. Let me know if you'd like me to refine any part. Influence is one of the most powerful forces in the world. It spreads without asking permission. It moves from one person to another, often without anyone realizing it. It's invisible, yet undeniable. And whether we like it or not, we are both influencing and being influenced every single day. It doesn't take a massive platform, millions of dollars, or a famous name to have influence. It only takes one person making a decision, taking a stand, or living in a way that inspires others. Influence spreads like a ripple in a pond. One small action, one word, one idea, one moment can set off a chain reaction that reaches farther than we ever imagined. History is filled with examples of how one person's influence changed the course of events. But we don't even have to look at history books to see it. Influence happens in everyday life. A parent influences a child. A teacher influences a student. A friend influences a friend. A single encounter, even for a few seconds, can change someone's path forever. Yet most people don't realize the power of their influence. They assume their words don't matter, their actions don't make a difference, and their presence is insignificant. But influence doesn't work that way. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't ask if you're aware of it. It just happens. Now, let's break it down. How does influence spread? Why is it contagious? And how can one person's actions create a ripple effect that touches lives far beyond what they can see? 1. Influence starts with who you are. Before a single word is spoken, before a single action is taken, influence begins with presence. People don't just listen to what you say, they watch what you do. They feel who you are. They sense your energy, your certainty, your beliefs. Ever notice how one person walking into a room can change the entire atmosphere? If they walk in with confidence, people straighten up. If they walk in with fear, tension spreads. If they walk in with excitement, suddenly others feel more alive. That's because influence isn't just about words, it's about energy. It's about how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, how you treat people when no one is looking. You don't have to be in a leadership position to have influence. The way you live your life is already influencing someone, whether you realize it or not. A child watches their parents, not just listening to what they say, but observing how they act. A team watches their leader, not just hearing their instructions, but feeling their confidence or their doubt. Influence happens not because people are told what to do, but because they absorb what they see. 2, influence spreads through action, not just words. Words have power, but actions have even more. People may forget what you said, but they won't forget how you made them feel, and they won't forget what you showed them through your actions. Think about someone who decides to improve their life. to get in shape, start a business, or develop a new mindset. At first, they do it for themselves. They don't set out to influence anyone. But then something happens. People around them notice. They see the change, they see the consistency, and suddenly they start thinking, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That's how influence works. It's not about convincing people with arguments. It's about demonstrating what's possible. Imagine a workplace where one person decides to start showing up with more energy, more positivity, and more effort. At first, nothing seems different, but over time, others begin to follow. They match the energy. The workplace starts to shift, productivity increases, morale improves, all because one person decided to show up differently. That's the power of influence. It doesn't demand, it doesn't force, it simply leads by example. And when people see a real example, they can't help but be affected by it. 3, influence is both positive and negative. Influence doesn't just work one way. It can be positive or negative. The same way one person can lift up an entire group, another person can drag them down. Ever notice how one complainer can bring down the mood of a whole room? How one negative voice can plant doubt in people's minds? That's because influence spreads in all directions. The energy you bring, the words you use, and the attitude you display will either elevate people or pull them down. This is why it's so important to be intentional about who you allow to influence you. If you surround yourself with people who complain, make excuses, and see problems instead of solutions, that influence will seep into your thinking. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who are driven, positive, and solution-oriented, that energy will rub off on you. The best way to protect yourself from negative influence is to become a stronger source of positive influence. Instead of being pulled down by others, be the one who lifts them up. Instead of letting negativity spread, counter it with optimism, effort, and action, because the stronger your influence, the less you are affected by the influence of others. 4, influence is a ripple effect. One of the most fascinating things about influence is that it keeps going, even when you can't see it. You might influence one person, who then influences another, who then influences 10 more. A teacher inspires a student, who grows up and changes an industry. A friend encourages another friend, who then starts a movement. A parent instills values in a child, who then carries those values into the world. And in each case, the original source of influence might never even know how far it reached. Think about the people who have influenced you. Maybe it was a coach, a mentor, a stranger who said something at the right time. They may have forgotten the moment. They may not even remember the conversation, but their words or actions stayed with you. They became part of your story. And right now you are doing the same for someone else, even if you don't realize it. That's why every action matters, every conversation, every choice. You never know who's watching, who's listening, who's being shaped by the way you live your life. Because influence is never just about one person. It's about a chain reaction. One decision, one action, one moment, it all spreads. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. Most people think that big changes come from big actions. They assume that if they want to achieve something great, they need to make a grand move, take a giant leap, or wait for the perfect moment. But that's not how success works. The truth is, the most powerful changes in life come from the smallest, most consistent actions repeated over time. Success, growth, and transformation are not about doing something huge once. They are about doing something small again and again until the results become undeniable. A single action might not seem like much today, but over time, it compounds. It builds momentum. It creates an unstoppable force. Consider the way water shapes a rock. One drop of water falling on a rock does nothing. But if that drop falls every second, every minute, every hour, for years, what happens? It wears the rock down. It carves through solid stone, not because of force, but because of consistency. The same is true in life. Small, repeated actions create massive impact. But most people overlook this truth because they're looking for something dramatic. They want instant results. They want overnight success. And when they don't see immediate progress, they assume their small actions don't matter. But they do. In fact, they matter more than anything, because small actions, consistently applied, will always outperform big actions taken once in a while. 1. The power of daily habits. Think about anything great that has ever been achieved. Whether it's in business, sports, health, or personal growth, success is always built on habits. A writer doesn't become an author by writing one great chapter in a single night. They do it by writing a little bit every day. A musician doesn't master an instrument by practicing for 10 hours in one sitting. They do it by practicing for 30 minutes every day. Small daily habits create long-term change. But here's where most people go wrong. They think their small efforts don't count. They say, "What's the point of exercising for just 10 minutes? It won't make a difference." Or, "Reading 5 pages of a book won't change my life." But that's where they're mistaken, because those small efforts, stacked together over time, lead to enormous results. Look at someone who commits to reading just 10 pages a day. In one day, it doesn't seem like much. In a week, it's still small. But in a year, that's 3,650 pages. Enough to read 15, 20 books. And over 5 years, that's 7,5,1,0,0 books. That's how small actions lead to massive change. 2, the compound effect, why small things multiply. There's a concept called the compound effect, and it explains exactly why small actions matter so much. Imagine 2 people. One decides to improve their health by making small changes. Drinking more water, walking for 10 minutes, eating slightly healthier meals. The other keeps living the same way. In a week, there's no noticeable difference. In a month, maybe a little. But in a year, the first person has more energy, has lost weight, and feels stronger. And in 5 years, the difference is massive. The second person, on the other hand, is the same or worse. They stayed in the same habits, and now they feel more sluggish, less healthy, and out of shape. How did this happen? Small actions, repeated daily, create exponential results over time. Take money, for example. If you save $5 a day, it seems insignificant. But over a year, that's $1,825. Over 10 years, that's $18,250. And if it's invested, it grows even more. This is how wealth is built, not by one giant financial move, but by small, smart choices repeated over and over. The problem is most people don't think long-term. They focus on what's immediate. And if they don't see big results right away, they quit. But those who understand the power of consistency keep going, even when they don't see progress, because they know that growth is happening beneath the surface. 3, small actions change identity. Another reason small actions are so powerful is that they shape who you become. Every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you are. If you wake up and go for a 5-minute walk, you're casting a vote for being a healthy person. If you write a few sentences in a journal, you're casting a vote for being a writer. If you save a few dollars, you're casting a vote for being financially responsible. Over time, these small votes build up, and before you know it, you've changed, not just in your actions, but in your identity. People who achieve great things don't do so because of one big moment. They do it because their small, daily actions align with the person they wanted to become. 4, the difference between success and failure is tiny. Most people think failure happens because of one big mistake. But more often, failure happens because of tiny, repeated choices. Skipping one workout doesn't seem like a big deal, but skipping workouts for months, that leads to a decline in health. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't seem like a problem, but making it a habit, That leads to weight gain. On the flip side, success isn't about one big breakthrough. It's about making slightly better choices again and again. It's about showing up every day, even when the results aren't obvious yet. A business doesn't grow because of one viral post. It grows because of years of small, consistent efforts, marketing, networking, improving, refining. A strong relationship isn't built in a single grand gesture. It's built in daily kindness, appreciation, and effort. A fulfilling life isn't created in one big decision. It's created in the small moments, the small habits, the small disciplines that add up over time. And this is where most people get stuck. They underestimate the power of small things. They think, if I can't do something big, why bother? But the truth is, it's the small things that lead to the big things. The difference between someone who achieves their goals and someone who doesn't is never about talent or luck. It's about the small choices they make every single day. Because in the end, success isn't about what you do once. It's about what you do consistently. Most people believe that in order to make a real impact in the world, they need to be special. They think they need to have some extraordinary talent, a perfect background, or a rare set of skills that set them apart from everyone else. They believe that making a difference is reserved for the gifted, the famous, or the highly accomplished. But that's not true. Making a difference has nothing to do with being extraordinary. It has everything to do with taking action, no matter how small, no matter how ordinary you may feel. It's not about being the smartest person in the room. It's not about having a huge platform or endless resources. It's about doing what you can with what you have, where you are. History is filled with stories of ordinary people who created extraordinary change. They weren't born with more talent, money, or influence than the rest of us. What they did have was the willingness to act, to care, and to take small steps that led to a massive impact over time. 1. The myth of special people. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is that the people who make an impact are somehow different from us, that they were destined for greatness, that they had some advantage we don't. But look closely, and you'll see that the people who change the world are just like you and me. They had doubts. They had fears. They had moments when they wondered if what they were doing even mattered. The difference is that they didn't let those doubts stop them. They didn't wait until they felt ready or qualified. They just started. A teacher who stays late to help a struggling student isn't extraordinary, but to that student, they are life-changing. A neighbor who checks in on an elderly person isn't extraordinary, but to that person, they are a lifeline. The stranger who offers a kind word on a difficult day isn't extraordinary, but to the person receiving it, that kindness could mean everything. The truth is, you don't need to do something earth-shattering to make a difference. You just need to care. You just need to show up. 2, small acts create big waves. People assume that change happens in big, dramatic moments. But in reality, change happens through small, consistent actions over time. One decision, one act of kindness, one step in the right direction. Think about a single match. By itself, it's tiny, almost insignificant. But when struck, it can start a fire that spreads far beyond its own reach. That's how impact works. One small act can set off a chain reaction that reaches people you may never even meet. A simple idea shared with a friend can inspire them to start a project that helps thousands. A single book given to a child can ignite a passion for learning that changes their entire future. A few words of encouragement can give someone the confidence to chase their dreams. The small things matter more than we realize, and often we don't even see the full impact of what we do. A moment that seems minor to us may be life-changing for someone else. That's why it's so important to keep showing up, even when it feels like nothing is happening. 3, you're more capable than you think. A lot of people hold themselves back because they believe they're not good enough. They think, who am I to make a difference? I'm just one person. But every big movement, every great change, every major breakthrough started with one person. One person who decided to take a step. You don't need to be the best. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to start. The people who make a difference aren't the ones who wait for permission. They aren't the ones who sit back and hope someone else will do it. They are the ones who take responsibility, even when they feel small, even when they're scared, even when they don't know what the outcome will be. If you want to make a difference, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting until you feel ready. Just do something, anything. Even the smallest step in the right direction is more powerful than standing still. 4. Influence spreads without you even knowing it. One of the most powerful things about making a difference is that your influence spreads further than you can see. You may never know how many people your actions affect. You may never hear about the lives you've touched, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. A smile to a stranger can lift their mood, which makes them kinder to someone else, which starts a ripple effect of positivity. A conversation you have with a friend might seem unimportant to you, but it could be exactly what they needed to hear in that moment. A decision to pursue your dreams might inspire someone else to pursue theirs. You don't always see the impact, but it's there. It's happening. And that's why it's so important to keep going, even when it feels like no one is watching. Because even if you change just one life, that one life could go on to change thousands more. 5. Ordinary people, extraordinary impact. When we look at the people who have changed the world, we often see the end result, not the journey. We see the success, not the struggle. We see the big moment, not the years of small, unseen efforts that led up to it. What we don't see is the teacher who helped them believe in themselves, the friend who encouraged them when they felt like giving up, the stranger who offered kindness at just the right time. Behind every great person is a series of ordinary people who made a difference in small ways. And that's proof that impact isn't reserved for the extraordinary. It belongs to anyone willing to take action. You don't have to have millions of dollars. You don't have to have a massive following. You don't have to have all the answers. All you have to do is care. All you have to do is take one small step. All you have to do is be willing to do what you can, even if it doesn't seem like much. Because in the end, the people who change the world aren't the ones who are different from us. They're the ones who choose to act.